Sobel joins us now. Let's start with Gavin Newsom, his first state of the state. How did he do?
Well, I think the speech was an interesting one to listen to. He combined some things that he wants to do in California along with criticism of Washington, D.C., and in particular, President Trump.
He also talked about high-speed rail, which kind of caught some people off guard. He said he wants to scale it back from Merced to Bakersfield, which is already under construction. He said some will say this is a train to nowhere, and then he said, personally, I find that offensive.
Yeah, it was a curious comment. This is a $77 billion project that has never really come to, well, obviously not come to fruition, but just as, fraught with many, many problems. He is allowing one little segment to go ahead and then backfilling that, he says, with...
Does that essentially kill it?
It's basically got to be dead in the sense that it's only going to get more expensive over time, and if you stop something, how do you pick it up years later?
He also seemed to double down on his stance against President Trump and the White House and policies that seem to run counter against California. I'm just curious, what are your general thoughts on that?
Well, it was a part of the speech that, he went away from what he was going to do in California and for California, and he basically threw red meat at his base. We are a deeply blue state in California, so he can make any comment he wants about the president and the White House, and people will go along with that. The real question is the governance of California and all the problems and opportunities that we have as a state of 40 million. But he's using this as a platform to some extent because I think in the bigger picture, one day he wants to make a run for president.
Brian, your thoughts on the compromise between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to border security and averting another government shutdown at the end of the week. Do you think that President Trump will sign off on this?
Yes. I think he went through the first round, 30-some days of a government shutdown. Nobody won there. He comes out of this with about $1.3 billion for funding for part of the wall. How would you spend $1.3 billion quickly enough that you couldn't come back later for more money, which is what he's going to do, or he could declare a national emergency and go get more money for this. But I think he is going to sign off, and we will not need a continuing resolution.
Okay, so he does sign off. What happens next?
It'll be brought to a vote. I think you'll get a bipartisan support on it, and the government will be funded. And I think this situation where we jump from crisis to crisis, at least this time, will be averted.
Brian, just very quickly, it almost seems like all of this put us right back where we were in the beginning, which was Democrats said they would allow $1.3 billion for border construction. Now that's what we have in this compromise, $1.3 billion. In the meantime, we went through 35 days where 800,000 federal employees weren't sure how they were going to pay for meals, and it didn't come until literally there was a gun to the head of this compromise committee that said, you better come up with a solution by Monday, or we're going to have another government shutdown. Is that how government works these days?
We would hope not, but we have seen too many examples recently over the last few years of this situation occurring where you need last-minute committees and that sort of thing. Really, Congress can be criticized for not doing their job on a regular basis. And I don't care who is sitting there. You have to be able to cross the aisle, both parties, and work these things out. If you don't, you end up with these kinds of crises.
Which we see time and time again.
Time and time again.
All right, Brian, thank you.
You're very welcome.